Good afternoon. I want to welcome you to the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library Museum. My name is Dr. Ian Hunt. I am the Chief of Acquisitions here at the Presidential Library, and this is a brand new program that we are putting in place where we are going to be highlighting not just the artifacts that we have in the collection, but the history, the background, the stories that are attached to the artifacts in the collection. It gives you a better understanding of what makes this place so special and why you should come to visit us. Now, the artifact that we have today, I am incredibly excited to talk about. It has just recently come into the collection. It was a very generous donation to us by Governor J.B. and First Lady M.K. Pritzker. They have been good friends to this institution for a very long time, and they continue to do so. Now, I know you're probably going to look at this, and you're going to say, Ian, for this inaugural episode of this project, why wouldn't you choose something bigger? Why wouldn't you choose the Gettysburg Address or the 13th Amendment or any of the numerous treasures that we have here? And I'll tell you why. Right now, this is probably my most favorite artifact that we have in this entire collection. It is new, so certainly some of that excitement is just having a new item to work with. But this is more than just simply a bust. We have a number of busts in the collection. Made both from Lincoln's own time and then into the modern era. Sculptors continue to use Lincoln as a source of inspiration. But this bust is very, very special. This is Abraham Lincoln's personal copy of the Leonard Volk bust, which was done in the spring of 1860. Now I'm going to give you a little background on this. Now, in March of 1860, while Abraham Lincoln is in Chicago attending to the sandbar trial, young sculptor by the name of Leonard Volk approached him to ask whether or not he could create this three-dimensional representation of Lincoln. Over a period of several days, Lincoln went to the sculptor's studio. They sat, and from this work came what is known as a Herm-style bust. You see it's got Lincoln's head, neck, and upper torso. It is all exposed, just like the classical busts of Hermes from antiquity, from ancient Greece. It is a beautiful three-dimensional representation of Mr. Lincoln, and Volk knew that Lincoln's political star was taking off. This is before even the inaugural, or before even the nomination for the Republican Party, but Volk understood that Lincoln was an up-and-comer in the party and understood that by creating this representation of him, that he would have something special and probably have something that he could sell a lot of copies to people. So in March of 1860, Mr. Lincoln sits for the project. In May of 1860, Volk decides that he is going to come down to Springfield because he wants to create a full-size statue of Lincoln. He wants to create literally from head to toe. And he realizes that he needs to make castings of Mr. Lincoln's hands. He had already had the castings of Mr. Lincoln's face, which is how he created this sculpture. But hands are difficult to do. They're very detailed. They're very hard to get right without having these kinds of assets at your disposal. So he was on his way to Springfield to see whether Lincoln would sit for the castings. While en route, actually, in May of 1860, it comes across the wire telegraph service that Lincoln has just received the nomination from the Republican Party. So Volk gets back onto the train, comes straight to Springfield, and reportedly went straight to Mr. Lincoln's home over at 8th and Jackson, just literally 7 blocks from where I'm standing right now. And when he walked up to the front door and greeted Mr. Lincoln, he said, "I am the first man from Chicago to congratulate you on your recent nomination." The story goes that Mr. Lincoln invited him into the house. They began to discuss the process of the casting of the hands. During the course of that conversation, while they're sitting in the front parlor of the Lincoln home, Mary Lincoln, who had been outside working in her garden, came in. She had with her a large bouquet of flowers that she had recently cut, and when introduced to Mr. Volk, she actually presents to him a bouquet of those flowers. In response, Volk reaches into his bag and pulls out this bust. This is what's known as a cabinet-sized bust. It's about 14 inches high. It sits on a wooden base, and he presents it to Abraham and Mary Lincoln. The bust would remain in their home from May of 1860 until their departure for Washington, D.C. in February of 1861. Now, why they decided not to take the bust with them is anyone's guess. They may have been concerned that it may have been damaged on the long train ride to Washington. They may have also thought that it was a little ostentatious to show up in Washington, D.C. with a bust of yourself. Maybe he had knowledge that there would be a lot of statues built to him in Washington and he didn't feel he needed to bring an extra one. Whatever the reason, Mr. Lincoln presents this as a gift to his old neighbor and very good friend, Reverend Noyes Minor. Now, for those of you familiar with the Lincoln story, Minor had become a neighbor of the Lincolns in 1855. They had become very close friends. During the war, when Willie died, Reverend Minor actually traveled to Washington to help console the family, spent time in Washington, and then after the president was assassinated, Reverend Minor was one of the ministers who spoke at his funeral here in Springfield. So the family had a very close connection. The bust remained within the Minor family until literally earlier this year when it went up for auction, and Mr. and Mrs. Pritzker were kind enough to go after it for us. They've donated it to this institution. The Pritzkers were very adamant that this was something that needed to be given to the people, not just of Illinois, but the people of America, that this is a great representation of how we can come together as a nation. So we are very excited to add this, and we're very excited to get this on display for you. If you have any questions, certainly post them. We'd love to hear from you, love to hear what you think about this project. In the meantime, for the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library Museum, I'm Ian Hunt. Thanks for watching.